What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Now, I know I promised you guys a setup video, not of my setup, but of just, how to get started on YouTube, or just how to get an Elgato and record your gameplay and have all that fun shit to do. But today, unfortunately, a series of events have occurred that are close to me, close to a lot of people in the world, and I wanted to talk a little bit about it and just, pay my respects to somebody who inspired me on YouTube as a musician, has gotten me to play a lot more guitar, and you know what, to be honest, she probably never even knew she did, unlike, or like a lot of her fans who have taken inspiration from her. And this was Christina Grimmie. She was unfortunately shot last night at her concert and passed away from her injuries. If you don't know who she is, she was on The Voice, and if you check out her channel, I will put a link in the description below. Just a fabulous musician, lots of passion, and just a very, from what you can see on her social media portion of her life, very genuine person, and I think that's why she inspired so many people. And it's just heartbreaking, and unfortunately, it was due to, once again, gun violence, which has been a very controversial topic in, the Western world for a very long time. And I just, while paying my respects, I do wanna sing one of my favorite songs by her. Well, she did a cover of it. It's not originally done by her, but it was one of my favorite covers that she ever did. And I wanted to pay my respects that way, but I also wanted to talk a little bit about gun violence. And I know it's a very touchy subject, very controversial, and I was hesitant on getting into controversial topics on YouTube, but you know what? That's what YouTube's for. It's for spreading messages and just how you feel about situations, and I want to stay as neutral as I possibly can while, still providing how I feel on that situation. So I don't know all the statistics. Obviously, I don't have all the time in the world to put, studies into statistics and numbers. So I'm just going to give information on my experiences, what I've heard, how I feel about, gun violence. And if you guys want to post in the comments below, maybe some statistics that you have found, maybe how you feel about it. I'd love to hear, both sides of the situation, because it is a very interesting topic. So, like I said, leave your comments below, and punch that like button if you agree, or if you feel the same way about Christina's music. Just hit that like button, because she was an absolutely phenomenal artist, and like I said, not only inspired me, but inspired hundreds, thousands of people to follow their passions and to just be who you want to be. So, moving on, I want to talk about gun violence and how I feel. Like I said, I don't want to push my opinion. I just want to kind of try to stay neutral while providing how I feel. I don't want to take any offense or give any offense to the opposing views. But for instance, I want to start off with some of the views that I agree with on the opposing side, which is, I understand you don't want to give up your amendment rights. I know gun regulations in Canada, where I'm from, are a lot different than they are in the US. And from my experience, I've grown up in Canada, but I've spent 3 to 4 years in the United States, surrounded by some of the the topics and just different people's opinions on gun violence and regulations. So it's been a very interesting time for me, because I've gotten to see just different sides of the opinion, different opinions on the topic, and I've kind of developed my own thoughts on it. And the main issue that I've heard is this idea that you in the United States, they don't want to give up their amendment, and that makes complete sense, because I mean, when you start to say, oh well, we lose this amendment, what amendment's next, right? I mean, what does the government take over next? What, you don't want to feel like you're falling into this completely government overridden country, and I am all for that idea. I understand where that's coming from, but I also think that laws do change over time, right? I mean, when these were written, obviously the world was a drastically different place. For example, social media is exploded over the last 5 to 10 years, That is going to change the world, not in terms of gun violence, but in terms of laws, right? The world is now a completely different place, which means old laws may not have the same effect that they used to, right? We have to look at laws, and we have to be open for the idea that as the world changes, so do laws. And when I apply this to the thinking of gun violence, I can see where this might come into play. As gun violence rises, we might have to think about that law in specific, that amendment, right? Now, moving on to the next portion of it is just the idea when I compare somewhere where I grew up to somewhere where I have spent a little bit of time, and I see how guns have differed in the two countries. And we have very strong regulations here in Canada. First of all, automatic weapons and handheld like pistols, almost impossible to get. I know automatic weapons are illegal right off the bat. That is not something you can get in Canada, or use for that matter. Yet in my family, a family who has a deep tradition in hunting, my grandfather ran a hunt camp and acquired numerous guns from hunters who respected him. So within our family, we have dozens of weapons. Yet the regulations have them locked up, have trigger locks, just very, very tight regulations. So it's not like we can't have guns. To get those guns is very difficult, but we still have them. I mean, if it ever came down to it, they're here, right? But we don't carry them around with us on our person, right? They're locked away, and to be honest, this drastically reduces the amount of incidents you find in the country. Now, I also understand that the populations are drastically different. 300 million, 330 million compared to, our 30 million or so. I see how there is that 10 times difference in population, which definitely aids in the number of incidents. But I don't believe it plays the same factor as the factor that guns in the United States are, one, much more accessible, and two, just the ability to have them on your person, the areas that you're allowed to carry them, right, also increase the odds of a gun violence encounter. So, for example, in Canada, even with our strict regulations and our strictest, possible laws we can have, the most strict laws we can possibly have, of course, you're gonna find the person who has ill-hearted acts in their heart will find a way illegally to get a weapon, but it is going to be tremendously harder to do than it would have been in the United States. You're gonna find those people whether the regulations are strict or not. So to say that Canada still has gun violence and our laws aren't doing anything, I don't believe is true. I believe that you're just seeing people who are determined to find a weapon, and they will, but it's almost impossible. It's very, very hard for them to do so. But in the States, they can get it with ease, easy access, and now there's the argument that, well, if there is going to still be that 5% chance of gun violence, even if we had the strictest laws, I want to be able to have a gun at my side. Well, in order to do that, you have to make guns easy to get for people who want to protect themselves, which will just make it easier for the people who want to hurt people, right? So it's a balance, right? You're saying, if I get into a gun encounter, I want to have a gun on me. But by doing so, you're increasing the odds that you get into a gun encounter, right? So in Canada, I feel, yes, if in the marginal chance I ever get into a gun encounter, I don't have a gun on me, but there is a 0.5% chance I will ever encounter a gun violence attack, I feel more comfortable with that 0.5% chance that I don't have a gun than if I had let's say, I don't know how high it would be, but let's say a 20% chance or a 15% chance that in my lifetime I get into a gun violence encounter, but I have a weapon on me. I don't like that. I don't even want to get into a gun violence encounter. I don't care about having a weapon on me if it's going to bring that odds up to 15%. I'm happy with the 0.5 or the 1% chance, that I don't have a gun. Maybe who knows what'll happen, right? But I will probably never encounter that in my life. That's how I feel about gun violence. I understand the aspect that, it would feel nice to have a gun on me if I were to ever get into a gun violence situation. I get that, but if it's going to increase my odds of getting into a gun violence encounter, I don't know. I don't think that's a good trade-off. You know, I agree. I understand a lot of the arguments from the opposing view in terms of, you know, losing your amendment and, you know, you giving that up to the government kind of idea. Because, you know, what's next, right? I mean, what are they going to take next? I do see that aspect. But those are my thoughts on gun violence. This is a topic that obviously one could talk about for hours, you know, hours and hours. There's arguments on both sides that are valid. But those are my arguments. Those are kind of how I feel about gun violence and gun regulations and the trade-offs of whether I want to have a weapon on me or whether my odds of getting into a specific gun encounter and how that trades off. That's my view on it, right? And I know there's a lot of people that are going to disagree with that, and they, you know, they want to stand by their amendments, and I you know what, I believe there's a lot of pride and patriotism in that, but every time these, you know, these gun violence attacks are you know, put forth in the media, it sickens me, right? I mean, even some of the ones that I'm hearing in Canada now, a lot of them are related to gangs, much like in the States, but it's heartbreaking, right? I mean, it even shows that our regulations, as strong as they are, there's still some slip through the cracks, right? But to hear that, you know, a musician like this is getting shot at a concert, you know, it breaks my heart. And to think that if gun regulations were different in the States, I don't know, it may have still happened, but maybe if she had that, you know, 1% chance of ever hitting a gun violence encounter, I should say, in her life, maybe that never would have happened, right? I mean, look at this, for example, concealed carry is available. She didn't have a gun on her, right? So just, there's a lot of aspects to it that, like I said, have arguments on both sides, but those are how I feel about it. And that's enough about gun violence. I just want to kind of say my piece, but without further ado, I want to give back, you know, kind of a version of In Christ Alone, a cover that she did that I absolutely fell in love with. And, you know, whether you're a believer or a non-believer, it's good music. I mean, if you don't like the lyrics, you don't like the lyrics, but just appreciate the harmonies and the music. It's a beautiful song. It really is. And like I said, that's a whole nother topic, but I like the song. I think it's good. So if you like it, like I said, give it a thumbs up. But if you don't like the lyrics, try to appreciate the music for what it is, and hopefully you'll still like the song, despite how you feel about whether you're a believer or non-believer or whatever. And if you like the content, hit that subscribe button. That way you'll know when I post next, and we'll keep the content rolling for you guys on a daily basis. All right, let's take a look at this song. In Christ alone, my hope is found. He is my Lord, my strength, my song. This cornerstone, this solid ground, firm through the fiercest drought and storm. What heights of love, what depths of peace, what fears are still and strife cease. My comforter, my all in all, here in the love of Christ I stand. Light of the world, by darkness slain, bursting forth in glorious day. Up from the grave he rose again.
stand in victory. Sin cursed from lost its grip on me, for I am his and he is mine, brought with the precious blood of Christ. No guilt in life, no fear in death. This is the power of Christ in me. From life's first cry to final breath, Jesus commands my destiny. No power of hell, no scheme of man can never pluck me from his hand till he returns or calls me home. Here in the power of Christ I'll stand.
There it is, guys. In Christ Alone, one of my favorite covered songs by Christina. I'm going to put her version of it in the description below because it's absolutely beautiful the way she covers the song. Such a powerful song, and I mean, I myself, learning this song today, obviously can't hit it at the level that she very, very clearly hits it at, but definitely take a look at her version of it. And I just love this song. And now I know that a lot of you guys may or may not be Christian, religious for that matter, and may not fully believe in the lyrics of the song. I'm a big fan of of the whole song entirely. But I mean, even if you don't fully believe in those lyrics or believe in them at all, you can still appreciate a good song for being a good song. I mean, the song really builds from verse to verse. The chords get uplifting, and in the middle of each verse there's a powerful section of really strong chord progressions. And if you don't really believe in the lyrics, maybe you can appreciate how good the song is from a musical perspective. If you guys do, definitely drop a like on the video, because like I said, I want to know how you guys feel about the song and gun violence and whatnot. So if you have any thoughts on gun violence or this song in general, definitely post them in the comments below. I love to hear all input, negative, positive. It's all good stuff, right? I mean, it's all different perspectives from different viewpoints of the world, right? And I just wanted to share this song that obviously Christina shared with myself and the rest of the world through her cover, and out of respect to what she's provided me, this inspiration, and this, she's really unknowingly has been pushing me to play more guitar and just keep my passions going, which I think is beautiful. And last but not least, guys, obviously keep the Grimmie family in your thoughts and prayers, because as anybody is, when they lose a loved one, it's a tough time. I mean, the grieving process is never easy. I'm sure all of you may or may not know if you've lost somebody close to you. So obviously keep them in your prayers, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'd love to see some comments on some of the topics that were discussed in the song, and kind of what's going on. So as always, guys, until next time, stay on the bean. You do you. Live life your way, because that's the way it's meant to be. Cheers, you beauties.